Nelson Mandela states, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. He also shares, do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got up again. During the 146-year history of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, Arkansas Agricultural, Mechanical, and Normal College, Branch Normal, the university has striven to help people as they rise. Our theme continued this afternoon as was introduced this morning, the future of education in Arkansas, making the grade. Can you say making the grade? Through the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff network with all of our various stakeholders. This afternoon, we are here for our annual luncheon, and we will have the introduction of our motivational speaker, an added dimension to our luncheon. And the introduction of our speaker will be by Mr. DeQuez. He said call him DQ, but that makes me think of Dairy Queen, so I'm not going to do that. Mr. McLean will be introducing our special inspirational moment speaker this afternoon, and I want you to know that he is a social studies student in the School of Education. Give him a great big hand. And he will be introducing our speaker for the first half of this luncheon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Today I have the pleasure of introducing our motivational speaker, Dr. Moses V. Goldman. Dr. Moses V. Goldman serves as Vice Chancellor for Student Engagement at the University of Arkansas at Monticello. Dr. Goldman has over 25 years of experience in various settings and titles, including higher education, the church, involvement in the community, such as being an inspirational speaker and consultant. He has completed independent and collaborative health disparity research projects and interventions, served as a mentor and advisor to graduate and postdoctoral students, and has served as a grant reviewer for federal, state, and foundation funding agencies, among many other projects. He has made significant contributions to support enrichment programs to help students of color and disadvantaged students to successfully pursue graduate and professional health degrees. In May of 2017, he was honored by the University of Arkansas at Monticello as the 55th Distinguished Alumni Service. Dr. Goldman is an esteemed author and has also been published in newsletters, magazines, training and resource manuals, as well as professional peer-reviewed journals. Among the issues of concern for Dr. Goldman are incongruencies in educational achievement and attainment, health and economics, as well as the demise of the Black family structure, which is exacerbated by the challenges that African-American males face. Dr. Goldman is married to Ms. Suzette Shaw Goldman, and together they have 2 adult daughters. Please give Dr. Goldman a warm welcome.
Thank you, DQ. We certainly appreciate that. Let me say to the co-conference coordinators, Mrs. Trinita Gregg and Mrs. Tramel Howell, thank you so much for this opportunity. Chancellor Alexander in his absence, and my growing friend, your provost, Dr. Robert Carr, we give acknowledgments to him and to Dr. Benjamin. Where is Dr. Benjamin? I want to see Dr. right in front of me. Nice to see you. I have a younger brother named Dwayne Goldman, and he told me that he know you. Now, he's always running around trying to act like he a big shot, so I want to make sure he really does know you. Okay, all right, I just want to be sure that I say that. Now, don't hold anything that he's ever said or done against me, because I know him well. But thank you so much for the conception of this conference. I read a little bit of the history and your leadership, along with others, in establishing this conference, and so I'm delighted to be here. I am Moses Goldman. I serve as the Vice Chancellor for Student Engagement at the University of Arkansas at Monticello, UAM. UAM is the only open access university in the University of Arkansas system. And while I don't say that in the midst of a lot of golden lions necessarily from a competitive framework, I do say it to let those of you know that if you're working with students who are looking for a university with an infrastructure, that will meet them where they are and prepare them to be successful when they get to where they're going, just tell them to take a look at us. I want to acknowledge our Chancellor, Dr. Carla Hughes. January the 15th, 2019 marked the beginning of her 4th year as Chancellor at UAM. She is the first female Chancellor of UAM and the first female, at least in a permanent situation, to lead a 4-year institution in the University of Arkansas system. In her short 3 years at UAM, she's embraced UAM's open status as an open access university, and she's declared that we will be a model open access institution. She's established student success as our top priority, and she's provided leadership that has resulted in the construction of 2 much needed buildings. One, our Student Success Center, and the other, a new university police department. It was her emphasis on student success that inspired me to apply for the position of Vice Chancellor for Student Engagement and to return to my alma mater. I graduated from UAM in 1984, and I've spent the last 33 years in Ames, Iowa, Knoxville, Tennessee, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and Jackson, Tennessee, returning to UAM in July of 2018. My title, Vice Chancellor for Student Engagement, suggests that the success of our students is important to us, and that our students must be fully engaged academically, socially, emotionally, and spiritually according to their faith, beliefs, and their experiences in all of their educational experiences. And that's not just true for our students, that's true for all students. So my mantra to students is, my success is your success, and your success is my success. I challenge all of the people who serve under my leadership to establish a student success commitment. Mine is to challenge at least one student every day to discover and begin pursuing their life purpose. I believe that students' gifts, abilities, and life experiences, no matter how challenging or privileged they've been, have prepared them to be successful. And that it's our job at UAM to prepare them to be successful for whatever is next in their lives. And I challenge each of us as educators to adopt that, to think about what you will do every day to help those students that you're educating to be successful, and to think about how you can challenge them to understand that education is a gateway to success, not just to get a job and make money, but to make a difference. And so we encourage you to think that way. Ultimately, each human is built to be uniquely successful, and there's no one just like you. There never has been anyone just like you. There never will be anyone like you. You are a designer's original, and we should act like that. I want to start today just by highlighting a few of the current trends and issues in education, and particularly higher education. And I know we're not all higher educators, I don't think, in this room, but it relates to us. And I'll try to connect my comments to the significance of a high-quality local and regional education system. I'm going to emphasize some individuals because I realize that systems are comprised of individuals, and so I'm going to focus on individuals. But I do know that individuals sometimes get lost in systems, particularly in systems that are underfunded, overregulated, or have a number of corrupt or selfish people in positions of authority and influence. I know that don't happen around here, but it does happen. So I'm just saying that. I'll spend the bulk of my time making a case for the primary objective of my comments today, and that objective is to remind you as educators that you and your work make a difference. You and your work make a difference. No matter where you're located, you're making a positive difference in the lives of individuals, your community, your state, your nation, and your world. I have come to realize through education that I can impact people around the world without ever going to those places, because we reproduce ourselves in the students that we educate and that we empower, give them a sense of self-worth and understanding about who they are, and they can go out and make a difference. And sometimes we touch people's lives and we never really know how we're touching their lives. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And then I'm going to close with 3 things that I think today's educators should always remember. Some trends. My initial observation as it relates to trends is that education, whether primary, secondary, or post-secondary, is under a great deal of scrutiny, perhaps more scrutiny than ever before. the volume and speed of which information can be pushed out has done a great deal to enhance the appearance that this information that people are using to talk about education or the state and the quality of education is valid and well researched. But the truth is that people are taking sound bites and tech bites out of context to convince people that virtually all educators are doing a terrible job. Out of the other side of their mouths, these same people will embrace the importance and value of teachers and educators. How often do we hear people say that education is broken, yet most of our teachers and administrators are high character people that are doing an excellent job with scant resources? So on the one hand, you want to say, we're doing a terrible job. On the other hand, you want to say we value education, while at the same time, many of these individuals have the ability to make decisions about how our schools are funded and about the guidelines that people operate under. What am I saying to you? I'm saying that we are tasked with educating students in an environment that is hyper and hypocritical about the state of education at best and hostile to our industry at worst. The second trend that I want to lift up is a failure to continue to press into the existence and contributing factors to what I refer to as a web of inequities and disparities. Academic achievement and attainment. That gap hadn't been closed, y'all. We just stopped talking about it. Access to health care and related outcomes. Income and wealth disparities. If you listen to the crickets, you would think that we've all but fully resolved these problems. That's a trend. We stop talking about the things that we've invested so much time and energy in just when we get to a place that we're able to do something about it, and then we chase whatever the new thing is. The third trend is a persistent reliance upon standardized testing or test scores and so-called best practices to restrict access and opportunities to higher education. These practices have a disproportionately negative impact on students of color and other low-income or disadvantaged populations. And then the final trend that I want to lift up is the declining number of students that are eligible or interested in attending colleges and universities. This trend is good for students and parents, but it's really challenging for those of us in higher education that are recruiting students. I lift it up as an opportunity for all of us to join forces with this conference to work tirelessly toward college readiness for students and as well as college readiness for their parents and other people who support them. You make a difference. This is a major part of what I want to talk to you about. I want to take a few minutes to talk about the difference that educators make. I want to use my own journey with an emphasis on my formative years in the Pine Bluff school systems as a foundation. I grew up in a rural farm community about 15 miles south of the city. Dr. Jones, if you go back down 425, when you see that sign that says Wheeler Chapel Missionary Baptist Church, if you go down there to Rock Road, that's where I grew up. Somebody said, Terry, get up now. Oh, you know what? You know where I'm talking about. You know where I'm talking about. I grew up on those roads, running up and down the highway to stay in shape because I was a football player. And I attended First Ward School for Head Start, Broadmoor and Indiana Street Elementary Schools, Bel Air Junior High, it was junior high back then, and then Pine Bluff High School. I received my first degree on a football scholarship at UAM, and it was a former head coach from Pine Bluff High, Harold Tilley, that convinced my parents that he really wanted me to play for him. UAPB was slow. They offered me a partial, and then they offered me a full scholarship at the last minute. But I ain't trying to hate on nobody. I share this experience for three reasons. One, after 9 months of being back in Arkansas, I'm fed up. I'm fed up with the negative talk about Pine Bluff. I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of it. While I realize that Pine Bluff is not the same as it was during those years, but what town is? I also know that there are great people and great opportunities in this area, and you, the educators of Jefferson and surrounding counties, are well positioned to help people see a better reality of Pine Bluff. The second reason is my unswerving belief in the power of education. In 2017, I was privileged to receive the UAM Distinguished Alumni Award. Then Marketing and Communication Director Jim Brewer started the article in the Alumni magazine with the following statement: faith, family, and an unswerving belief in the value of education form the foundation of Moses Goldman's life. The eighth of 10 children, Goldman learned about faith and family from his parents, Curtis and Barbara Goldman. He learned the value of education at the University of Arkansas at Monticello, thanks to a faculty member whose background mirrored his. I'll talk about her a little bit. Today, Goldman is the Executive Vice President and Chaplain of Lane College in Jackson, Tennessee, and the 55th recipient of UAM's highest honor, the Distinguished Alumnus Award. I'm trying to verify now. I think I'm the first African American ever to receive that award. Colleagues, I know what a solid, well-rounded education means to a person's well-being and quality of life. The third reason that I share this story about me is I want to lift up a few of the educators who impacted my life and set the foundation for success that far exceed my thoughts and expectations. Now, they asked me to give you words of inspiration. With the exception of two people that I'm going to talk about, I've never gone back to any of these people and told them the things that I'm going to talk to you about today. And I don't necessarily feel bad about that, because at the time I didn't realize how they were impacting my life. And once I left Arkansas, I didn't get back very often, right? But I'm saying that to you because my assumption is, my thesis is that there are hundreds of students in your life that you have impacted or that you are impacting every day that have never and may never come back and say the same kinds of things about you. But you need to leave this room knowing that whether they ever get an opportunity to come back and say thank you, whether they ever get an opportunity to tell you you're making a difference in people's lives. These people don't know the difference that they made in my life. Joe Marva Rancifer, my first grade teacher, a stately, smart woman who refused to let me fail, we were poor. She had a son that was my age and about my size. She called my dad and asked him if she could give me some of his coats, because I didn't wear coats to school. Now, she told me they were his hand-me-downs, and I believed it then because I wasn't thinking. But now I know that they really weren't his hand-me-downs. They were really new coats that she went out and bought. But she had enough dignity to talk to my parents and let them know. And knowing my daddy, she had to convince him that she would do this in a way that would embarrass me, because otherwise he wouldn't have taken the handout. Ezra Scoggins, my first principal at Broadmoor Elementary School. Some of y'all know Mr. Scoggins, obviously, huh? Listen. My first principal was black. I didn't know how special it was to have a black principal. Nobody ever told me you're not supposed to have a black principal. And so this tall, dark man that would walk around like he owned the world and like he knew everything that was going on in the school and nothing rattled him was my example of what it means to be a leader. That was my first example of what it means to be a leader. I didn't know then how important. Somebody asked me a couple of weeks ago on our campus, why do you always dress up? And I had to think about it, because Mr. Scroggins always dressed up. He always had a suit on. If you saw him around town, he was always dressed neatly. Even if he didn't have on a tie, he was still dressed neatly. That was what was burned into my mind. That was the image that was burned into my mind of what it means to be a leader from the time that I was a little boy. Dolores Bratton and Ethel Davis, middle school math and pre-algebra teachers. Miss Bratton told me when I was in the 8th grade, boy, don't you never come back in this class again without having done your homework. Never. Because you're a good student. Miss Davis, her sister, when I left her math class and went to Miss Davis' pre-algebra class, clearly Miss Bratton had said something about me to her. And the first day I walked in the class, she just whispered to me, you can do this. I'm ready now. Why? Because Miss Davis says, I can do this. Yes. Jimmy Sanders, my middle school football and track coach, a UAPB alum, gave me confidence. He would often say to me, Moses Goldman, you got heart. And I still remember that. I say that to people now. You got to have heart. He made me appreciate the work ethic that was instilled in me by my parents and helped me to see that this work ethic can be transferred to other areas of your life. There was a lady whose first name I can't remember. I went to school with her with her son. One of her sons was my classmate. Her name was Miss Sims. And she encouraged me and him to take business education so that we would learn how to type. She could see down the road that computers were coming. We didn't know. And I didn't want to take the class, and he didn't either, but we took it together at her suggestion because we were the only black males that were in the class. But she saw down the road what we could not see. Irvin Phillips, my assistant high school principal, I remember one day sitting over in the cafeteria acting a pure fool. Yeah, I said it, fool. And Mr. Phillips walked up, and he had to know all of us well as students because he said something different to each one of us. And when he got to me, he said, Goldman, I ain't gonna say nothing to you. If you don't straighten up, I'm gonna call that old man. That's all he had to say to me. I don't know what anybody else was going to do, but that was all that it took for me. I could go on, and there are many others. I do want to talk about one other person. Mary Jane Gilbert was a professor of mine at UAM, and she told me early on that I was a good student. She introduced me to graduate school, and she taught me how to take exams, how to take tests. I didn't know that people could practice for the ACT, so I didn't do well with it coming out of high school because nobody told me that you could practice. But she taught me how to practice. And so I want you to realize that you make a difference. I could go on, but what I'm really saying to you is these are people, with the exception of two. I've never had a chance to go back and tell them what they meant to my life. And that's the same thing with you every day, whether you're on this campus or any other campus. When you walk by students every day, you can speak into their lives and make a difference. So the last thing I want to do is leave you with a couple of things to remember. And before I alliterate them, let me acknowledge that many of the things that those educators that I've mentioned today did for me may not be successful with today's students. The combination of millennials and Gen Zs and their parents and guardians that we're educating today are far different from the type of student that I was. They have different experiences, they have a different outlook, they have different support systems, and mostly importantly, they are different with respect to the ways and types of information that they receive. But after working with students and parents for over 30 years in 8 diverse college and university settings, I've discovered a few principles that are universal and timeless. These principles are rooted in the significance of establishing loving, caring, and trusting relationships. That's what I talked about with all of those people. I trusted them. I trusted that I could do pre-algebra because Miss Davis said I could do it. I trusted her. The significance of establishing those kind of relationships, not being so focused on who gets the credit. Whatever I become in life, none of those individuals are taking credit for who I am, but they made an invaluable, indelible impression on my life that will that will stay with me forever. And a relentless pursuit of intimate communication, connecting with students in ways that they will talk to you about what's really on their mind, and you can hear them and give them knowledge and wisdom from your experience that will help them to get through. They'll only tell you what's really on their minds when they trust you. Someone once said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. 3 things that I want to leave with you to remember. Number 1, we must always speak life into the lives of our students. I didn't misspeak. That's what I meant to say. We must always speak life into the lives of our students. Words are seeds. Seeds must be planted in prepared soil. They must be regularly watered. They must be weeded, and they must be given sunlight. Sometimes you're planting, sometimes you're watering, sometimes you're shining the sun, but you should always speak positive things. I have an Apple Watch, and it has these goals on it that it has 3 goals. I have 3 goals. It's a stand goal, it's a calorie goal, and it's a goal for how many steps I make each day. And every morning when I get up, my watch reminds me of how good I did the day before. But my watch has never said to me, you didn't meet 2 of your goals yesterday. It always says to me, you met 2 goals today. Keep it going. Try to get the 3rd one. You met 1 goal yesterday. Keep it going. And if I didn't meet any goals, it just doesn't say anything. We need to be speaking positively into their lives. My daddy used to say, if you ain't got nothing good to say, and this is how he said it, then just don't say nothing at all. speak life into their lives. The second thing is, with every encounter, you're either digging, planting, weeding, watering, or giving sunlight to a student's life. With every encounter, you're speaking something into their lives that's either birthing something important in them or snuffing something out that they need. Number 3, each student possesses a God-given life purpose. Their gifts, their abilities, their desires, and their experiences are designed to help them discover and fulfill their purpose. Their purpose is buried within them, and they need help discovering it and bringing it out. Sometimes the weeds of life have buried their purpose. They've gone through so much, and they're still going through so much that who they really are has been snuffed out. And this prevents us from seeing the beauty that they are. When I first got to Monticello, I bought a house that was in foreclosure. Thank God it was in foreclosure. I didn't have to pay as much for it. But the yard needed some work. And I went out into the yard and we looked at it, and I started pulling weeds and I started pulling things out, and I worked all day one Saturday pulling things out. And when I got out, I wish I had taken a before and after picture. When I got finished, my wife came out and she says, "Oh, it's amazing." It had these rocks that were behind it that were well placed. It had these annuals that were already trying to grow. They were just covered up by all the weeds or the vines. But when I pulled the weeds out, now all of the neighbors are saying, one of my neighbors came by the other day and said, "Stop making me look bad. My yard was the worst looking yard when I first got it. Now it's the best looking yard on the block. But the only thing that I did was pull the weeds out from around it to make it grow." Some of our students have weeds that have grown up around their lives. They've experienced hardship, and they need somebody who will take the time to pull the weeds out of their lives so that what's really behind all of that can shine and grow. There's a synergy of these 3 truths. We speak life by asking students questions that challenge them to ponder their purpose. We speak life by listening for their pain, their fears, and their passion. Effective listening leads to intimate conversation and relationships of love and trust. Sometimes you don't have to say so much, just listen to them. Many of our students haven't had anyone to listen to them. We speak life by knowing whether you are planting, weeding, watering, or giving sunlight. Some students need one thing and some needs others. I mentioned Coach Jimmy Sanders used to always tell me, "You have heart." We had another guy that he would always tell, "You ain't got no heart." But it made both of us. It motivated both of us. If he had told me I didn't have a heart, it would have crushed me. If he had told this other young man he has a heart, he would have been lazy and not done anything. He knew the difference between the two. He knew what I needed. He knew what the other student needed. And he spoke into our lives what we need. Know what you're saying and know what somebody needs. In many instances, what we say and do things that impact students in profound ways that we may never know about, but rest assured that your life and work does make a difference. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you, Moses. Thank you, Dr. Moses Goldman, for your words of inspiration. And if I could sum it up, I would simply say, Dr. Moses said to us, what you are is God's gift to you. What you make of yourself is your gift to God. Dr. Moses, would you please come forward? On behalf of the 26th Mary E. Benjamin Educational Access Conference, we present you with this token of love for your inspiration brought to us this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, Dr. Linton will come and provide our blessing, invocation and blessing of the food. And I want to say that your tables will be lifted as you are to go to the luncheon line, buffet line. But we're going to ask that Dr. Benjamin and Dr. O's table will go on and lead us along with our committee leadership, and the others will follow. So at this time, Dr. Linton.
Good afternoon. I believe, Dr. Go, you will know this expression, I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. I'd like to take this opportunity of personal privilege just to say to the people who are on the front line every day, who stand and get children where they need to go, whether they're children, youth, teenagers, young adults, and even sometimes grown people. Just two simple words, thank you. Because I know that it is not easy being a teacher, but if you do your job well, thank you. Now let us bow our heads for prayer. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to see this new day. We thank you for this conference, College Educational Access, where we can look and talk about and explore ideas that will help us to become better at what we do. Now, Lord, we ask that you bless this food we're about to receive for the nourishment of our bodies. Consecrate it for our use as you consecrate us for your service. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. While we're dining and while you are fellowshipping together, one of our outstanding freshmen, in fact, his title is Mr. Freshman for 2018-19, and we want to ask you to please lend your ear while you're waiting to be called to the table for Mr. Kevin Crumpton, a freshman from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. He's going to entertain us as we have our lunch for a little while, and then he'll come back right when we resume our program. Kevin, he's also a member of the internationally renowned Vesper Choir.
Father, help your children and don't let them fall by the side of the road, and teach them to love one another, that heaven might find a place in their hearts, 'cause Jesus, he is love. He won't let you down, and I know that he is love forever. Oh, in my heart, we got to walk on through temptation, 'cause his love and his wisdom will be our helping hand. And I know the truth, and his word will be our salvation. It will lift up our hearts to be thankful and glad, 'cause Jesus, he is love. He won't let you down, and I know that God is love forever in my heart.
As we continue with our luncheon, we are blessed with another phenomenal speaker. And in the words of one of my idols, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, I leave you a thirst for education. Knowledge is the prime need of the hour. I leave you finally the responsibility of our young people. The world around us really belongs to the youth, for youth will take over. It's the future of our world. At this time, we will have the introduction of our keynote speaker for our luncheon today. And I ask that you will please welcome our new coordinator of graduate education in the School of Education, Dr. Newell.
Dr. Carr asked me to deliver the introduction today, and I hope that I will do a good job for him. Vows are not written to be read aloud, especially for an audience of educators. Therefore, the purpose of my introduction is to bring you closer to the speaker and off the pages of the program book. Perhaps you already know that Dr. Owoh is a seasoned educator, having held numerous levels of positions within the field of education, and has actively served and volunteered with numerous professional and community organizations. You may not know that each day Dr. Owoh is faced with a paradox. For example, he knows, just like you and I, that students who attend schools located in low-resource communities are most likely to be negatively impacted by assessments. Yet these same students in schools are among those least likely to believe in the value of assessments. What if Dr. Owoh or educators like you could guarantee that the next generation of students will make the grade, and assessments would no longer be feared among students and administrators? Like all of us, Dr. Owoh truly understands the challenges of being an agent of change in public education K through 12. Based on his experience, credentials, and track record, I am certain that his message today will be compelling, constructive, and thought-provoking, because he will speak the truth from his real-time experience. He knows the issues. He's in the trenches, and he is ready to lead public education K through 12 to the next level. Please join in me in welcoming our speaker, Dr. Jeremy Owoh.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. To the university administrators, Dr. Alexander and his cabinet, to the faculty, to the university students, to Dr. Benjamin and the conference chairs and all of the conference attendees. It's a pleasure to stand before you. I kind of mentioned prior to coming up that it's a tough time. I mentioned to Dr. Benjamin, I said, it's a tough time coming right after lunch. So hopefully I won't be before you long, but I did want to share some things with you as it pertains to the state of education, not just in Jefferson County, but in the state of Arkansas. And if I say a few amens, please bear with me, because when I'm at the podium, I'm usually at my church and as a youth minister, so I may have some amens in there, but we definitely need a few amens. Amen? Amen. And before I get started, I want to really set the stage and to really, because I promised my students at the high school that anytime that I have the chance to speak before an audience, then I'm going to share this bit of information. We have some outstanding scholars. Some scholars who have taken ownership of their education. And we have some truly effective educators and some supportive community members. Since my time here, starting September 2018, I've grown to know the power of this community, the love of this community, the history of this community. And it's my job, my role, to make sure that it exists K-12, pre-K-12. So not only do we have outstanding scholars, but we have some scholars who have not been given the opportunity to understand the opportunities that they have in front of them. So it's our job as educators, as leaders, to provide those opportunities to them. And so I'm going to share some things with you, and I hope that you receive some things from this talk this afternoon. According to an article in the New York Times, education is not just another issue. It is the most powerful force for accelerating economic growth, reducing poverty, and lifting middle-class living standards. Well-educated adults earn much more, live longer, and are happier than those who are not as educated. The current state of education here in Jefferson County, honestly, realistically, truthfully, we are in a state of dire emergency. And we need all hands on deck and involved in the work that needs to be done each day, every day, including on the weekends. We have schools that were once classified as academic distress, now level 5 in need of comprehensive support. We have schools that have received ratings of D's and F's for the ESSA school index, and you received some of that information this morning. So the question we should ask ourselves, are these true indicators of the state that our schools are currently in today? True indicators. And my answer to you is no. They're merely the results of ongoing issues that plague our schools and our districts. The scores that our students receive at the end of the school year on the summative assessment should not be a surprise to us. If we really take the time to individually review each student's level of skills and understanding in each content, their level of understanding in each content area, then we will realize that we have a much more serious issue than a school rating or a classification. A significantly high percentage of our students are leaving each grade level span, grade levels behind, and unprepared for the next level. That fact that they're leaving grade levels, one grade level, several grade levels behind, not the letter grade that the school or the district received, is the state of emergency. When one of my ninth graders is literally reading on a first or second grade level, it is not only a state of an emergency, it's an injustice and an inequitable issue that we must address. You see, some of us still operate in the one-room classroom concept or mindset, a one-size-fits-all mindset. This mindset does not work for our students. It will not work for our students, and it creates an inequity issue. A high percentage of our students are not receiving the education that they need to not just be successful, but more importantly, to be functional young people who are prepared with the necessary skills to make sound, practical decisions. Until we really take the time and learn each of our students' interests and academic levels, we will continue to have major academic issues in our schools, and not just in our public schools, but all of our schools. Our scholars are entering the adult world of the 21st century. Our scholars who are entering the adult world of the 21st century will read and write more than at any time in human history. They will need advanced levels of literacy to perform their jobs, run their households, act as productive citizens, and conduct their personal lives. And we have some of those phenomenal young people here in the district. We just have, as adults, have to continue to provide those opportunities for them to excel. We have to have ongoing conversations that involve action and support. We also have to understand that it isn't just an issue here in Jefferson County. It's an issue in Southeast Arkansas, South Central Arkansas, Southwest Arkansas, Northeast Arkansas, and even Central and Northwest Arkansas. Research for Arkansas states that 7 out of 10 fourth graders do not read on a proficient level. 31% of Arkansas fourth grade students are only 31% of Arkansas fourth grade students are proficient in reading. 27% of Arkansas eighth graders are proficient in reading. And then Arkansas ranks in the lower third in reading scores in comparison to other states. In addition, 48.6% of Arkansas students in grades 3 through 10 are proficient in English language arts. 48.6%, less than half. 39% of Arkansas graduating seniors, only 39% of Arkansas graduating seniors met reading readiness benchmarks on the ACT. That's the dire emergency that we must address. But of course, standardized test scores offer only a snapshot of school performance. They do not tell us about how engaged our students are in class, how much they value learning, how they are developing as citizens, and how socially and emotionally healthy they are. It is perhaps indicative of national policy priorities that we have archived stuff with standardized test results, but very little longitudinal data on the many other things we want our schools to do. Another aspect of public education, which is based principally in poor urban and rural areas, is indeed a crisis. Too many of the students in those schools are dropping out well before high school graduation. Too many are receiving high school diplomas that do not certify academic competence in basic subject matters. Too many of our students are being left unprepared for the world of work. And too many of our scholars are being left unprepared to go into higher education and perform well in advanced technical training. Those schools are indeed in crisis, and they require emergency treatment. Our schools seem to be failing because we're not focusing on the right data and the right group of individuals and the right type of support. We're not focusing on our students and their individual needs. And we are allowing factors that do not impact student learning consume our time and energy. We must move away from trying to educate our students in a one-size-fits-all mindset and focus on the individual skills needed and the individual interests that are possessed by each one of our students. We must provide opportunities for our students to be engaged in their learning process, opportunities for them to have ownership and accountability. We must educate and support our educators, which include both licensed and classified. So many times we feel like that we may feel or say that the only educators in the building are our licensed staff. Our classified staff members have just an important role as our licensed staff as it comes to educating our students. So we must include both our licensed and classified members and let them know how important their roles are in transforming the lives of our scholars. Until we make personal and individual decisions to do whatever it takes to transform our education system, we will continue to have conversations on what to do with failing schools. We need to be honest and realize that our students are not failing the grade. No, they're not failing the grade. We are failing, the adults are failing to make education relevant to them. We are failing to make decisions that focus on what they need to learn and be successful individuals in today's society. Today's society, not 1950, not 1970, not 1990 or even 2000, but today's time. We must show our students that they have very important roles in their education, and it's an important role, but as the professional educator, as the parent, as the community member, as the business owner, we have a much greater role. We will not turn this ship around until all of us start towing our own part of the ship, until we stop pointing fingers and having philosophical conversations in the corner of the room and move towards rolling our sleeves, checking our titles at the door, and start making sound decisions that will impact every student at every level. Until that happens, we will not start making the grade. Best practices do exist in our Arkansas school districts. They exist here in Pine Bluff School District in Jefferson County. And they remain successful because they have strong student voices, committed educators, strong family and community engagement. High-performing schools and districts simplify their goals and practices and do those things well. That's what we need to have consistently happen in our K-12. We need to be concise and clear, consistent. When teams of educators believe that they have the ability to make a difference, exciting things can happen and will happen in the school. Research shows that teachers have a direct impact on student learning, and administrators have an indirect impact on student learning. We must have strong, effective leaders supporting strong, effective teachers. Teachers must have the tools that they need to be successful, and it needs to look differently from classroom to classroom, school to school, and district to district, meeting the individual needs of each student. That's real educational equity. Leaders must clarify directions, create collaborative cultures, deepen learning, and secure accountability. Leaders must make major transformative decisions in the schools. One, they must be the lead learner. They must continue to have the unction of obtaining. They should be lifelong learners. That's what I was trying to say, sorry. Lifelong learners. But they must lead the learning. They must be focused with a sense of urgency. They must also use the group to change the group. If we're going to empower the teachers, we need to involve the teachers in the discussion. If the teachers are going to change our students in instruction, they need to involve the students in the discussion, in the decision making. So we must use the group to change the group at all levels. We must grow and enhance teacher leadership, establish procedures and communication during implementation, clear and concise, focused. Focus on pedagogy and student progress. Pedagogy, the art of teaching. You just don't learn that one time, or will not learn that one time in one class. That's ongoing learning. The art of teaching. The art of teaching each individual student in the manner that they are able to learn, not the way you want to teach. That's the art of teaching. And use evidence. It's not a guessing game. We use data to ascertain what levels our students are currently, and then what they need, what instruction, what skills that they need to be successful. But we must use evidence. And then go outside to get better inside. Don't be afraid to partner with other community leaders, other educational entities, other districts, other states. In order for us to get better, we have to be willing to go outside to get better inside. Strong partnerships and collaborations will enhance and influence education in Jefferson County. But we must be willing to do more than just talk about what needs to happen. We must collectively and actively participate in the work that needs to be done. Our scholars need more exposure to the diverse role models. Community members can join classrooms to conference with scholars on their reading and writing. They can read to students or provide feedback during class or school projects and presentations. Our students must see and know that the community cares about their education. That leads to accountability and sustainability. We need our parents to actively show support for our children's education, our students' education at all levels, not just in elementary. We need our parents involved at the middle school level and the high school level. We need our parents to make the home a good place for learning. Even if our parents do not have the skills to help with homework, they can still create an environment in that house that's conducive to that child's learning. And that's where we need our parents to really contribute in this learning process. We need our parents to assist our students with their homework and extend their learning. Take them to the library, enroll them in after-school activities, etc. Nelson Mandela stated, young people must take it upon themselves to ensure that they receive the highest education possible so that they can represent us well in the future as future leaders. We must continue to focus on our students and the positive results that they are producing. Education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter who was born in poverty can become a doctor, that the son who had parents who did not obtain a high school diploma can become the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, that a child of a farm worker can become the president of this great nation. It is what we make out of what we have and not what we're given that separates one person from another. Some very basic common sense measures work in dealing with the crisis of urban education. You need good leadership in the schools. A strong principal focused on the basics can make an enormous difference. Restoring safety and discipline and backing up teachers who are determined to maintain discipline in their classrooms in the school corridors can be very important. High expectations always work. A solid academic curriculum for all students is very important. And determined efforts by school districts to recruit and retain high-quality teachers is very impactful and will make a tremendous difference in turning this ship around. We need trusting relationships, culturally responsive teaching, and educational equity. President Obama once stated, in a global economy where the most valuable skill you can sell is your knowledge, a good education is no longer just a pathway to opportunity, it is a prerequisite. So how do we make the grade? We make it by focusing all of our energy, all of our resources on the most important person in the education system, the individual student. Have a good evening. Good afternoon.
Before we open it up for questions, we want Superintendent Owoh to come forward. And on behalf of the 26th Mary E. Benjamin Educational Access Conference, please accept this token representing the fact that we appreciate your leadership and we look forward to our future here in Pine Bluff.
Well, thank you.
At this time, if there are questions, we're going to take just a few moments to entertain any questions that you may have for the superintendent. Yes.
I don't have a question. I just like to thank Dr. Owoh for supporting the students when they are achieving and doing well. I saw you at the championship basketball game, and also thank you for supporting the Destination Imagination team that is getting ready to go to Globals for their third time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Our own John Brown Watson said it's not just what we do in the classroom with the books, but it's all of that extra that makes our students the productive citizens that we want them to become. Are there other questions? Yes.
Dr. Owoh, when you were presented with the opportunity to come to Jefferson County to take on your position, what were your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Truthful, honest. Transparency, right, that's the key, that's major. A few thoughts ran through my mind. First, when I knew that the state was going to come in and assume authority over Pine Bluff School District, I did ask Commissioner Key, can I go? One thing that, and I told him I was willing to go because I felt like Pine Bluff reminds me of my hometown, Camden. And I have not been able to go back to Camden, but if I could give back to a community that's like my community, where I grew up, where most of my teachers are graduates from University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, then I wanted that opportunity to give back. And I shared this with Dr. Benjamin, my quote that I live by is, the definition of success is not my accomplishments, it's the fact when I've helped others to achieve their goals. That's the definition of success. And so I looked at the opportunity of being able to put all my experience, my education to use to assist the students first here in Pine Bluff School District, parents, the faculty and staff, and the community. That's probably the basis of the decision that I gave Commissioner Key, the reason why I want to come. Now, my thoughts were that, I was like, well, I'm going to Pine Bluff, I'm going to bring all these resources, all these, I know I'm going to implement this program, but surprisingly, when I arrived here, I was shocked, in all transparency, how well the level of support that the community has for the school district. So I realized it wasn't the lack of resources and support, it was the lack of consistency and support that the leadership at the central office of the school district was and was not providing to our administrators, our teachers, our students, and our parents in the school district. So my thoughts of coming to Pine Bluff is to provide that consistency, that fairness, that transparency, and the support that our students need, and then provide opportunities. So when all means all, and I told the staff September 17th when I started, if we really believe that all means all, then I need to know that that all really means all, that every student will grow, will learn, and know their opportunities that they're out there, that are available for them.
Let us please give Superintendent Owoh one more applause. And before we have our very, very short break for our student teachers to come and prepare, I would like to ask Dr. Mary E. Benjamin to please come forward. There is no need for a statement, but I do need to say that I am honored and privileged to represent the 26th Mary E. Benjamin Educational Access Conference Planning Committee and all of its presenters and all of its participants in presenting to our visionary, to this woman who we call the busiest bee on campus as well as off campus, because I really don't know that she's retired, because every time I come to the STEM building, she's here. But on behalf of your family, we present you with this token of appreciation for your ongoing commitment to not only students, but to education, to this community, and to the production of life. Remembering the words of my idol once again, we are all diamonds in the rough. And this woman, this phenomenal woman, is a head cheerleader for those of us who want to become diamonds.
Oh, thank you.